Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
Socialite Rebecca Grossman was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for killing two young brothers in a 2020 hit and run. Grossman, who turns 61 on Friday, was convicted of second-degree murder and other charges in February for the deaths of brothers Mark, 11, and Jacob Iskander, 8, in Westlake Village, outside Los Angeles. She sobbed as she was sentenced to 15 years to life on Monday in front of a packed LA courtroom and the mother of the young victims, Nancy Iskander. Rebecca fatally struck the siblings while speeding behind a car driven by her then-lover Scott Erickson, a former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher. Sentencing Grossman, Judge Joseph Brandolino said, her action was grossly negligent which led to the loss of 2 lives, and she engaged in incredibly selfish behavior. Citing a lack of remorse for her actions, prosecutors had asked for the maximum penalty of 15 years to life sentences to run consecutively, one for each young boy. Earlier on Monday, Grossman's daughter told the court that her mother was molested at the age of 11 as she begged the judge for mercy on Monday. Alexis Grossman, 19, appeared in a 30-minute video prepared by the defense team for the sentencing hearing, which is ongoing. Rebecca Grossman sobbed loudly as Alexis told how her mother was repeatedly emotionally and physically abused even before she turned 13. Alexis said Grossman's mother had a boyfriend who molested Grossman when she was 11. Earlier in Monday's hearing, the boy's mom Nancy Iskander screamed at Grossman while speaking directly to her for the first time, recalling how she had to make the horrifying decision to take Jacob off life support after Mark was declared dead at the scene. Pointing at Grossman, Nancy continued, "She looked at me in the eye. She didn't get on her knees and she is saying she wished she could speak to me. You could have. She cannot claim, I wanted to speak to Nancy." Nancy continued, yelling at Grossman, "You were there. You looked me in the eye. You knew they were dying." It's not clear where Nancy says she saw Grossman the day of the hit and run, as Grossman did not return to the scene or stop her vehicle until it became disabled on its own from the crash. Speaking to the court, Nancy recalled waiting for Jacob to take his last breath at the hospital. "He was turning blue and I had to leave the room," she added. Rebecca Grossman, clad in brown jail wear, sobbed loudly and looked directly at Nancy as the grieving mother pointed at her. In a shocking moment, Nancy said that, despite her anger, she loves the woman who took her son's lives. "I will say though I love her," Nancy said. "I do love Rebecca Grossman after all she did, but I don't believe what they say about her because her actions speak about her." Her husband Dr. Peter Grossman, daughter Alexis, 19, and son Nick have continued supporting the Socialite and were present in the courtroom before sentencing. Grossman hasn't been pictured today because she was taken into custody after her conviction in February and has been in jail ever since. On the opposite side of the court sat the boys' parents Nancy and Kareem Iskander. Wearing a button with her 2 boys' pic on her shirt, Nancy was in tears as she took her seat in the courtroom audience. Grossman, clad in a brown jumpsuit, shook her head and cried as victim impact statements were read in court. Statements were read by Mark and Jacob's uncle, grandmother, teachers, a pastor, and neighbors. The packed courtroom was moved to tears as the Iskander boys' grandmother, Joyce, told the judge how the tragic deaths has affected their entire family. Joyce Gobriel, the mother of Nancy Iskander, said she quit her job and moved to live with her daughter and son-in-law to help raise her grandchildren. The grieving grandmother's voice cracked as she struggled to hold onto the microphone and talked about how Grossman didn't readily take responsibility for the tragedy. "I have people asking how I am doing. I am grieving," Gobriel said. "If not for her car, we would still be looking for the murderer." The wife of prominent Los Angeles burned Dr. Peter fatally struck the siblings while speeding behind a car driven by then-lover Scott Erickson, a former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher. Grossman was not charged with being under the influence, but former baseball player Royce Clayton testified he had joined.